We'll make a start. It's 9 o'clock. Just like to remind everybody here that the meeting is being recorded and it's being viewed by other people within council who aren't here. So just keep that in mind. First things first, apologies. We have an apology from Kim Brett. She can't make it today. I'd like someone to move that we accept Kim's apology.
I'll move that.
And seconder, Jean. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion's carried. So moving to public forum. Great to see people finally interested in our little meeting and coming along to present. And yeah, look forward to hearing what you've got to say. Mr. Sinclair, let's start with you.
Sure, okay. So I think...
Would you like to come and have a seat?
Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
And my photos will be ready to...
Yes, Esther will pull those up for you.
Okay. Okay, kia ora tātou. Kanu te kia koutou ngā rangatira o te puare hapori. Engari me ngā rangatira kua harua nei kia kōrero ki ai ngā kaupapa e pāna ki tēnei rohe. So my name is Stephen Sinclair. I own a batch, just back from the beach at Waihona Bay. Probably well aware, just a few miles around the harbour. The reason I wanted to speak today is I've got a growing concern about the accelerating erosion of the bank along a large part of Waihona Bay. It's been happening for many years now, but I guess with the deteriorating weather, it's getting worse. We've approached the council, myself and neighbours approached the council, repeatedly over like the last 10 years or more, without anything much happening. I appreciate that the council has an enormous job on its hands with erosion all around the peninsula, and this may not seem like the most spectacular example of erosion, but there's two important points I want to put to you guys. The first is, this is a beach on the harbour. It's not an ocean beach. It doesn't get hammered by big surf, by big swell. And a wall to basically protect the bank could be quite modest and quite inexpensive. So I think it's kind of misleading to make comparisons with some of the like East Coast beaches and say, well, we've got much more erosion, like, say, Whitianga Beach or whatever. Why would we care so much about this? But yeah, the point I'm making is it is a problem for this area, and it wouldn't be difficult to fix. My second point is Waihona Bay is like a major asset really for this particular area around Coromandel Town. There aren't many beaches, good swimming beaches, and along with Long Bay, I think this is probably the premium swimming beach for the whole area. So it's not just an issue for us, the batches and residences along the beach. It's also an issue for like the hundreds of ratepayers who bought along the Waihona Peninsula. And part of a big part of the appeal of that is having a really nice beach that's available to them. But also, I mean, people come from Coromandel Town and of course tourists. The critical issue is there's a strip of grass between the road and the beach, and this is what's being eroded. But it's a really important area because it's used both for picnickers, for families picnicking, and for people parking. Parking is like it's a growing problem. I've been coming to Waihona Bay my entire life, and apart from like the period of COVID aside, it's getting more and more populated and in demand. And if nothing's done, this strip of grass will disappear in a matter of a few years, maybe even 2 or 3 years. And when that happens, we're going to have a huge problem with parking. There's nowhere up the hill to park. So people are going to come to the beach. They're going to be parking on the road. They'll be parking at the turnaround, which makes it pretty much impossible to turn. And so, so I'm asking you to seriously consider taking action on it. So maybe we could start, have a look at these photos, please.
So these are the ones here?
Yeah, okay.
The grass area, that's between...
Yeah, so the photo on the right shows what's going on basically. Like a few years back, you might get some sort of removal of soil at the front and some sagging of the turf. What we're getting now are these big gouges, like huge fissures opening up, and large pieces of earth and grass, basically looking like that. And of course, a piece like that will quickly fall into the beach. On the left, so we're losing fixtures as well. That's wooden steps on the reserve just past the turnaround. So that's obviously not able to be used anymore. And it is, this is a real problem for people who are like physically challenged.
Steve, we're just grabbing the other photos that show the road and the impact on the car park.
Bear with me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, totally get it. I guess, any questions from anyone while we're finding the photograph?
Did you send me some photos of the road and the erosion up to the road in the last week or so? Somebody from Waiona Bay did.
No, it wasn't me.
Wasn't you?
Yeah.
Probably Hamish.
Yeah, I forwarded those on to the roading manager.
Okay.
Because, it was council's position that until the asset being the road was under threat, that they wouldn't do anything.
Sorry,
but this here, this is what I've got. So I've sent that to the roading manager. He hasn't got back to me yet. It is definitely affecting the road now, which was their which was their point where apparently they would start to take some action once the road was under threat.
Okay, so this has happened in the last couple of weeks. I think I was here about like a month or 6 weeks ago maybe, and in the middle of quite a big storm, which seriously eroded that turnaround just there, and I came down a few days ago to find it looking like this. It's obviously a big problem. I would point out that, it's a shame that the council is tends to be reactive about these things. So my neighbour Bruce Dodd, who's a retired builder, said he did a costing for putting rocks along the stretch that hasn't got any protection, which would have come to be like $9,000 and $11,000. We're now in a situation where I know nothing about roading, but I imagine that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars, and it's a kind of case in point of the frustration at seeing something not done, and then waiting until something has to be done for it to be fixed. Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen. Any other questions?
Wasn't there something in the long-term plan about doing some protection work along the foreshore there, Bubbles? Do you ever recall?
I'm not specific to it, sorry.
Remember?
Can't recall at the moment, sorry. I'm just having a quick look now to see if I can see anything, but no, I can't see anything in there.
Okay.
So Stephen, I suppose it's before council are aware of it and have been working on it. Like John says, there's work plans that it may be included in. You kind of covered it off right at the start in terms of the challenge of prioritisation of sites and where it will fit in amongst their Oamaru Bay, Colville Bay, sort of like you say, all of those coastal places are
sure.
Paratonga.
Yeah, I would say that. This is a more sheltered place than even Oamaru Bay, which I know it opens out to the Gulf.
So yeah, John's chasing along, so.
Yes, it is. It's a shame it's got to that stage, but that was going to be the trigger point where council were going to step forward. Looks like the trigger point's been reached now.
Right.
Can I say a couple more things just hurriedly?
Quickly.
Okay. Just beyond the mesh there, you'll see there's some rocks. Okay, and they were put down to protect a pipe for drain water, for
that cold
water, yeah. And that was actually put down not by the council, but by Alan James as protection for the pipe. The reason I brought attention to this is it shows basically there's been no erosion of the bank where those rocks were put down, and that's only a few years ago. But in that interim, you've lost about 2 meters of the bank. Yeah.
Good point.
And then finally, I mean, I just urge you, please, to make it a priority. This being the community board for this area, and consider a resource consent with Waikato Regional.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks so much.
We will certainly get a comment from the roading manager and I'll feed that back to you.
Oh, great.
As to
Thanks
where
so
it
much.
sits in the work programme.
Okay. Good day.
Thank you. Moving on, who would like to go first? Ginny, welcome.
Hi, I'm Ginny from Paget Street, and today I'd like to address harmful effects of the cell phone tower on the corner of Paget and Albert Street. I'd like to bring this to your consideration and care. So I live less than 100 metres from the newly erected cell tower. I had received no notification of any notification from council or then Vodafone, and no notification whether it's on 4G, 5G or even 3G. So we don't know. But what I am aware of, I've had some health issues, including tinnitus, and it kind of goes in peaks. So I don't know if the tower is actually peaking and dropping, and I think we need to be aware of these facts. And, it's up to also the council to care for the community and do no harm for any health effects that will result in these spikings. I'm also aware, let's hold that up for the camera, don't know whether that will be seen, you can probably zoom that in. Many countries overseas.
So so people are watching, what does the picture actually show?
Well, you can see the red rings of the radiation
Are they
going out.
Is something that's been measured, or is that just distance from the tower?
Okay, so there are many effects. I'd like to table that for your consideration. So that is a 200-metre radius.
Right, yes.
I live in that zone there.
Yep.
And that is what has been documented by scientists so far. And this is probably going back a couple of years. So the implications are harmful effects. It's the field of electromagnetic radiation. Okay. As I was just about to say, countries overseas are actually taking down these poles for ill health, cancer, etc., etc. Many people in the area are complaining about actually their cell phones not working. I actually had an electrician come out 2 or 3 weeks ago because my TV, one of the channels weren't working, and I paid $450 for him to come out and see what he could fix. And I've heard that it's possibly because the emissions from the tower that could be causing this. And also people in the area complaining about not being able to receive text messages, send text messages and phones. not working correctly. So my stance on this, I believe that we're subjecting citizens of Coromandel to a lethal experiment. You know, this is just another one of those that are actually happening around the world. Anybody got any questions?
Other questions? No.
You know, so I'd just like to conclude at the end, you know, a lot of us have been called conspiracy theorists, but, you know, we conspire to do no harm to all beings, including our environment. And I'd really like you to give this some consideration because of the health effects of the future of not only our families, grandchildren, and what happens down the line.
Well, maybe I have one question.
Yeah.
Jenny, have you been to see your local MP?
Many of us have,
You've done that?
not personally.
Oh, okay, no, that's all right. That's, the reason I ask is because a lot of this is central government legislation, which was passed on down through the council, and of course, he being your government representative now in power, I just thought that might be a good course of action for you.
Okay, but it does end up with the council's responsibility at the end that ticks the box to say yes or no. No. It's actually permitted activity. This one was controlled because the tower was a little bit taller than normal, but there's still no right of refusal for council on that. Right. So, you know, I suggest it goes, if it has to be here in town at all, it should be in industrial or up in the hills, not in face of families, children, pets, etc., etc.
Thank you, Jenny. I think Wendy will speak to this.
Thank you.
So you've tabled the document there.
Yes.
The picture.
Through the chair, an updated one to you.
Okay. Just email it in.
When it's completed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And Guy next or Wendy?
Hold up.
I should immediately clarify something from our ward councillor. The Informer, in its latest issue, has published a statement that erecting cell towers is a permitted activity or a controlled activity. And Vodafone came to the community board in May 2022 and said Vodafone can put a cell tower wherever it wants to. Now, that's only half the story. And so what I want to explain to you today, what the full legislative position is. I've already sent around a document personally that I trust some of you will have read, because the arguments are full of detail which I can't present in 5 minutes. So I'm depending on you reading that document. So I'll come to this issue shortly as to the full legislative picture around cell towers. And Jenny's already tabled a document showing that there are cities throughout the world now are standing up against this idea that a multinational corporation can walk into their town and put up a dangerous technology. So that's a very important thing to grasp right from the beginning. The technology is dangerous. And I'll ask my colleagues here, please, to hold up. These are the signatures of leading independent scientists and doctors working in the field of electromagnetic technology, electromagnetic radiation. These are the signatures from 44 nations warning us that 5G technology isn't safe. So when the residents of Coromandel Town stand up and say, we don't trust the safety of this technology, this is an example of the support that there is internationally. Thank you very much. And there is the requirement under the Local Government Act for council to give weight to the views of its community. So these views have international support. They're not views that can be dismissed by council saying, we have government advice that it's safe. The legislation requires council to give weight to the views of its community. So this is the weight we bring to bear, the weight of scientists in 44 nations warning against the technology. Right. Now, an important standpoint to begin with is that Coromandel Town has already been reticulated with fibre optic cable. Fibre optic cable gives Coromandel citizens, these people here, all that they need. It gives them fast and safe internet connectivity. It's actually faster, more reliable and safer than what 5G is offering. So there is no community-driven need for 5G technology in Paget Street. We didn't ask for it. It was imposed upon us without consultation. Now, in terms of the Local Government Act, that's an unlawful procedure. It's not correct to say that Vodafone can put a tower wherever it wants to. It's not correct to say that the council is helpless because the activity is permitted. If we go to the legislation, council has given a temporary fast-tracked land use resource consent. Right, that's a resource consent process under the Resource Management Act. The Resource Management Act says, as one of its leading Section 5 purpose objectives, is to provide for the health and safety of the community. So council, in giving resource consent, has to have regard for the parliamentary acts, which the Health Act protects the health and well-being of the community. The Resource Management Act protects health and safety. The Local Government Act, the Resource Management Act, the Health Act, the Transport Act refers the telecommunication companies to the Resource Management Act. And we have our own Hauraki Park, Marine Park Act. So when the consent process took place in 2022, first of all, in August, residents had come to the council and presented the international evidence against the safety of 5G, saying it's an untried technology. They had told the council that the technology was unsafe. They had told the council they didn't want it. Then the next month, Vodafone launched its application for consent. The consent did not address the parliamentary legislation adequately. So the application for consent was in fact not compliant with the parliamentary acts.
Right.
And then council granted consent without having regard for its obligations under the Local Government Act.
Yep. So Wendy, we have the detail in the documents that you've given us.
Good.
And they'll certainly be submitted as part of this. Just wondering, in closing, is there anything, any sort of final point that you'd like to make?
I think the essential points are that there is already existing fibre optic cable, right? The residents do not need 5D technology. That's point number one. Point number two is that this dangerous technology has been imposed upon the residents, and that's unlawful. Even the national standard that John refers to directs any user of the national standard to the requirement of the Resource Management Act to avoid, remedy, mitigate harm. So we know from Jenny and also from many other testimonies of residents I've spoken to that harm has not been avoided, remedied, mitigated.
Right, thank you.
Yes, so then there is my final request, which is that you recognise your obligation to the community to advocate on our behalf for the removal of this pole.
Thank you. Do the members have any questions? Questions? Wendy, just one thing, obviously it's contentious around is there harm or is there not harm and the cause of harm. The limited, so I did read your document, and in terms of council's obligations, I get all that. I suppose the challenge is for council when assessing this is to determine is it harmful or is it not. You mention in your document research and damage to genetics, damage cancer causing, damage to various things, but you don't reference in there the research that's come to those conclusions. So I'm just suggesting going forward, if you have those, it would be helpful to council to reference those as you normally would with who the author was, where and when they were published, and the name of the article, and then council can fully consider.
Right, so I'm tabling the scientific evidence with all its sources.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy.
Yes, and I should just read you one sentence from, I want to read you one sentence from the Department of Internal Affairs,
One sentence.
which says that in granting a resource consent, council must have regard for its obligations under the Local Government Act. So that's verified by government.
Right.
Yeah, and that did not happen.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you for your attention, everybody.
Thank you.
Guy, wrapping up, leave the best to last.
Sure. No, I just really want to emphasise one point that I'm here in support of Wendy's evidence and what she's presented. And in her documentation, she does refer to the national standards. And I just want to point out that those national standards go back to the 1990s. They were put in place before 5G was even a consideration. They have not been revised or reviewed since. And they are predicated on the basis that people are only experiencing intermittent exposure to electromagnetic frequencies from cell towers. Now, of course, that's the point of Ginny's diagram, showing that there's, I think, 170 houses within a 250-metre radius, something like that, of those people. And you couldn't say that the exposure that they are receiving is intermittent.
Was it intermittent or incidental?
Incidental.
Incidental, sorry. But incidental is less so than intermittent.
Yes.
So all I'm saying is that those standards do not recognise what it is like to live permanently within the the serious exposure area of the tower.
Right. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Guy. Any questions for Guy? Great, thank you.
Is there a chance I could just say a couple of minutes? I'm sorry, I came in late, so I didn't get a chance.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have something that hasn't been covered already, and that would be great.
Hi, my name's Lisa. So a number of years ago, I submitted documents to the police department regarding the Pfizer vaccine and my concerns as to its safety. My background is as a pharmacy technician.
Yep.
And I've worked in both the community pharmacy here and also at Auckland City Hospital pharmacy. So in my concern, I tabled evidence that there was a product included in the manufacturing of the Pfizer vaccine called graphene. This product is highly sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. So in the preceding years, I gathered more evidence and I in total visited the police 4 times with more and more evidence as to the harms that were occurring.
Yep.
And this is specifically in relation to the relationship between radiation and the vaccine. Okay, so graphene is excreted via the lungs, and when in contact with electromagnetic radiation can cause symptoms that are very much like COVID. So when all of this evidence started coming out, there was a lot of gaslighting in the health sector because they don't know what they're looking at, and what they're looking at is a very, very advanced, high-level, what I would describe as bioweaponry that's been developed by very advanced level scientists. So the reason why they can't recognise it is that it's at the nanoscale and it's not really perceivable in the normal sphere of training that doctors typically get. So currently, Pfizer is being sued by the Attorney General of the state of Texas and a number of other areas now because they're starting to actually have enough evidence to prove what is going on. My concern is that the evidence that I submitted also to Sandra Gowdy, I've submitted evidence to John Morrissey, our councillor, I've submitted evidence to, I submitted cease and desist orders to the pharmacy, the surgeries. I've submitted all of the evidence most recently in June to Area Commander of the Waikato region, the Eastern Waikato region, Mike Henwood, showing the correlation between the incidence of harm in the vaccinated population and also the harm associated with 5G alone, but also the relationship between the two. So in Wuhan, China, 5G was activated at the end of October in 2019, and the outbreak occurred shortly thereafter. The same happened in New York and in Lombardy, Italy. So the issue I have is that there's a lack of correlation happening within the minds of the population due to the fact that the media is essentially creating one narrative. And as I was talking with a resident of Waiuna Bay just recently, she said her Airbnb is not running very well because so many people are putting their properties on Airbnb because they're not selling, and they're not selling because so many people have died that so many properties are on the market. What I want to bring your attention to is that anecdotal data is very important when it comes to experimental products. You cannot just look at the data that's going to occur in 10 or 15 years' time because that will be too late. And in this case, it is extremely important that the council takes these correlations seriously, because what this is going to affect is fertility, ongoing cancer rates skyrocketing, for example, these turbo cancers that are happening. There is an enormous amount of evidence to show what's actually in the jabs, and it is not just mRNA that stays in the system, it actually goes everywhere. The biodistribution studies from Pfizer showed this. Even the data from the initial Pfizer trial shows that it causes more harm than good. Okay, so my concern is that these documents I submitted quite some time ago, and I submitted also enough evidence to show harm, okay? And it is the council's responsibility to protect the public. And as a former Pfizer employee and whistleblower, Karen Kingston said, you cannot contract to kill. And obviously no one here is wanting to harm anyone. But because of the lack of information that has been made available to people, people are unknowingly perpetrating harm, in my view, okay? And I did not arrive at this view spontaneously. I did actually do the research and collated information from international experts all over the world, and I presented that. So my concern here is that if this issue with 5G is not addressed, what is happening with this nanotechnology is that it is replicating in people's blood, and the blood is being analysed internationally in multiple labs. They are showing this now. It is very well evidenced. So if this is not addressed, we are going to see an influx of cancer, the likes of which we have never seen before. We're going to see strokes and heart attacks continuing to increase even in the young, and we already know this is happening. And we're going to see neurological disorders, dementia, Alzheimer's, all of these things are going to increase because graphene has a very, very big impact on the electrical conductivity in the body. It is highly sensitive to light, and it's highly sensitive to temperature, and it's highly sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies from radiation towers, cell phones, and Wi-Fi in schools. So if this is not taken seriously, we're going to see a real pressure on the health system. And what happens when that happens is that people don't get the health care they need, they end up not being able to work, and crime rates go up. And then all of a sudden you've got a societal breakdown that is already occurring. So if you're not keeping tabs on this, you're going to have an immediate effect in your community, which you may not tie back to a vaccine or a cell tower, but will have a very, very big impact on everything in this operation. Okay,
thank you.
If you need the documents, you can see Mike Henwood from the Eastern Area Commanding Office in Para.
John, you've got the documents, so you get them before.
Yep. Let's go a long time ago.
Just your name again, please?
Nisa Hutton.
Pardon?
Nisa Hutton, Hutton.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Anyone else wishing to speak? Well, thank you all for your time. Very passionately presented, strongly held views. Definitely the information that you've given us today will be we'll decide shortly whether we do, and go forward to council and be recorded. So yeah, thank you for your time. So I'd just like to move that the community board accepts the presentations that were made today and the documents that were tabled. Do I have a seconder? Yep. All those in favour? Aye. Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you. Right, get into the agenda. Any items that are not on the agenda that people wish to raise? A couple of things have been brought to my attention, but obviously not in time, don't meet the criteria for the meeting, so we'll address those as we go forward into the future, for future meetings. No one else has anything else? Thank you. Any conflict of interest, having read the papers, anything in the agenda that people feel they're conflicted by? No. Excellent. The minutes from our previous meeting, 24th of October. Sent out with the packet. Everybody read those. Does anybody have any disagreement with what was recorded as the minutes of that meeting? Bearing in mind that the public excluded minutes will be addressed later in the meeting.
I'm happy to move again.
Happy to move. A seconder? Motion to approve the previous minutes is carried. Next step, CAPEX work programme. Any questions? Welcome, Bruce. Last one.
Good morning, board. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here in person. So the CAPEX work program for this meeting, pretty standard stuff as usual. Obviously, the annual plan for this year, we pulled all the CAPEX back across all the board areas. So it is a pretty small program, to be fair. The only other thing I would say is I'd say that we went through, had a couple of meetings yesterday regarding projects with the project team. And I'd probably update a couple of these, in light of more recent discussions, really just around Takuma Road intersection and Buffalo Cemetery. I'd probably put those both as amber rather than green now. So the Takuma Road intersection, There's a plan being worked out how to move that forward, but obviously there have been some delays, and any land acquisition projects are quite often subject to delays, you know, because you're dealing with the landowner. We don't want to pressure them or anything, but we're trying to move a project along, and then they want to take the time to understand, and you go backwards and forwards, and obviously you're dealing usually with their legal representative. So obviously when you're going kind of with lawyers, and we've got a specialist consultant who does a lot of land acquisition work, so he's very good, but you're going backwards and forwards through lots of parties, so things do take a bit longer than what we'd ideally like, but that's just the process. So yeah, so that one's going a bit slower than what I'd like, so I'd say that would be Amber. And then Buffalo Cemetery, again, just re-looking at that one with a kind of fresh set of eyes. So we've got a guy, Lorenzo Canal, who we've contracted and who's helping out fill in for the program manager role, which was Andrew Bowden used to do that role. He left earlier in the year. I held it for a while, and then we've contracted Lorenzo in for a few months. So he's had a look at this one. There are some, it looks like there was an issue where people were getting a little bit concerned because of a stormwater flow around competing priorities. But obviously having a look at it, there's a thing called natural servitude. So obviously if you're a lower property, the water naturally is going to flow down. Yeah. So it looks, the main part is that as long as we're not concentrating the water flow onto another property, then you obviously can't stop that natural flow of water from a higher property to a lower property. So they're having a bit of a relook at that one, and possibly it might not be quite the issue that they originally thought. Right. Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that, Bruce, because that's been the board's thoughts.
Yeah.
For a while, we didn't realise quite what that project was.
Yeah.
We thought it was the drain. This one just appeared, and there was no discussion with the board. And then we learned about it. No, I came up, you know, it's the rainwater's coming from up there. It's end up down there. Why are we doing this?
Yeah. So I think it is, you know, there is other work, obviously landscaping and bits and pieces, but, you know, I think potentially one of the project managers who got involved, maybe the activity manager as well, they get involved, okay, let's start doing this, and then suddenly, there's this big stormwater issue, and suddenly everything kind of goes on hold or to the side while we deal with a big stormwater issue. Now we look at it and go, actually, potentially there might not be a big stormwater issue. It might just be a natural contours and, you know, lower land receiving stormwater from higher land.
Good news on your last report.
So, so hopefully that'll kind of start things moving forwards, but it basically is a bit of a relook, because it might be actually what someone thought was the big issue actually isn't the big issue. So let's now get into, okay, what are we going to do with that? You know, what can we achieve? So
thank you, Bruce.
So those would be the only kind of updates I'd provide, specific updates. Happy to take any questions.
So if that stormwater issue is not there, have we got money put aside in we've got 141,000 or something there?
We do, yeah.
Could it be still used for stormwater at the cemetery? i.e. piping the...
potentially, yeah.
Because that's all the board's wanted for the last 20 years.
Okay.
Is actually that project, really. So if that one is deemed not necessary, the overflow, so to speak, there is still an issue up there with those drains, and good to get those done.
Okay, I'll make a note and I'll talk to
just look at. Thanks, Bruce.
The board did ask, as part of their LTP workup, that project be included, so I'm not sure where that landed, Bruce. That's the piping of the drain down Buffalo.
I'll tell you where it would have landed. I didn't actually see it, Bubbles, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I can't recall.
You should have asked her first.
Yeah.
I can't recall, apologies.
No, I don't.
That one specifically. I'm just
me neither,
Bruce. Looking any of the stuff I've got, but okay. No, I can't see any.
No.
Nothing on there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Bruce?
Oh, come some.
Don't let him off so lightly.
It's all pretty good, actually. The Karakia.
Oh, that's not Bruce.
Come on, Bruce, tell us.
Stop it. We're talking Bruce, not me.
We really are sitting on that one. That's.
Well, honestly, I had hoped to come to this meeting with some very good news, as did John Muston, as did even Don Hughes and Liz Cameron are in direct contact now with Lynn's and the MOE about it, and
it's just not happening.
Well, they keep telling us it'll be signed by the end of the week. We've got emails saying it will be signed by the end of the week. It will be, but it still hasn't been signed.
Amazing.
So unless John's received something, because I have actually been away
he's not up there
over the last week. I've not heard anything new.
John Muston's on leave.
Oh, okay.
So good news for the next meeting.
Well, for the new year, hopefully.
Christmas present.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so on the documents, anything else?
No.
In terms of projects?
No.
Okay, so the motion is that we receive the CAPEX program dated 8th November 2023. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Jim and a seconder? Yep. Jean, thank you. All those in favour? Aye. The motion is carried.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting one.
Shanice.
The road.
Oh, Ed, that's what you're doing this one.
Road changes at Calloway Lane. Ed, welcome.
Good morning, Board. If we can take the report as read.
Yep.
Take any questions?
My only question would be, this must be one of 10,000 instances across the district where the road doesn't align with the road reserve as recorded on the map. Is there anything specific? What kind of drove the need to tidy this up?
Through the board, yes, you're quite correct. I wouldn't say there's 10,000, but there's a significant number, shall we say. The only thing that drove this particular item was that my predecessor, Matt Bush, was contacted and agreed to undertake the exchange of land to rationalise the boundaries. So we have a prior legal commitment in writing to undertake this work. We're pursuing that. There was a previous report that went to the community board, which, as we've noted, we made a mistake, got the wrong number of the house, and I apologise for that. Our legal team picked that up, raised the issues. We looked at that prior report, and Srinath worked with the legal team, revised this report, and as you can see, it's been presented. So no change to the land exchange, no change to the actual issues involved, just a change to the correction rather to the legal titles of the properties.
Yep. Awesome, thanks Ed.
And there will only be 9,999 to go after that.
Tidy up. Tidy up. All right, anyone else have any questions?
No, I'm happy to move it.
Other questions? A motion to accept.
I can display that one on the screen for you.
The report.
My computer will allow me to.
So the resolution that we receive the road legislation agreement to exchange land for road improvements, Public Works Act 1981, 21 Calloway Lane, Shelly Beach, Coromandel. That we recommend to council to approve the acquisition of the freehold interest of those areas of Lot 1. The numbers are there. Approve the road stopping as shown on the screen, and recommend that the Chief Executive complete it and get it done. Everyone happy with the resolutions as shown?
Mm-hmm.
We have a move around a seconder, please.
First.
Jean?
I'll second.
Jim, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Board.
Moving on to our meeting schedule.
I'm going to speak to this one. So through the chair, I'll take the report as read. It is pretty standard. The boards have all been presented the meeting schedule. Any questions?
Anybody got a meeting on their birthday that they'd like to move or anything?
Now that you raise it.
So nothing, no one's noticed anything?
No.
Oh, yeah, I like it. I think it's good. So therefore, we'd like to move that we accept the meeting schedule. dated 6th of November 2023.
I will so move.
And I could second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously. The Stamper battery.
Yes.
Come up before. Lovely to see some progress. Is Nicole with us? Yes.
She is.
Welcome. I'll turn your microphone on.
Thank you. Yeah, that always helps. Good morning, everybody.
Welcome. Some great work done here.
Sorry, what's that?
It looks like some progress. It's great to see.
Yes,
moving
it is
with
good
Stamper
progress.
battery.
Yeah.
So what do you have for us?
I'll take the report as being read, and just if there's any questions from the board.
I'm happy to see it going through. Do you reckon we'll have it, if the board approves, done and dusted by Christmas, like the person that's buying, or the company that's buying the lease wants? We'll be able to move it that fast?
Probably not with the council meeting being on the 12th, but I think if I'm not too sure. It is the last council meeting, isn't it, Easter? On the 12th?
Correct, it is.
Yeah, it is. So, but if they get the assurance from the community board, that does help, but.
That will help. I was just wondering because I'm really keen to see anybody that wants to start a tourism business in this town and get that Stamper battery up and running, not miss out on a Christmas. So I was just wondering if we do get it through the community board today, and I don't see why it won't go through, if it's possible to get on as a late item, perhaps on the, it's only a 2-second job, as a late item on the council paper, just for approval. That means that, get your hand out, that means that that gives real surety, and maybe somebody that's going to run the business will have a Christmas that they might otherwise miss out on.
I will speak with Ariana and see what I can do to get these minutes through on that agenda.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Esther.
So any questions? Any other questions? No, we're happy with,
I actually read that.
the least transparent. Cool.
I'm happy to move it, Gavin.
Well, so the motion is, or the resolution, that we receive the proposed assignment of lease Stamper battery report dated 16 November, and that we as a community board recommend to council to approve the deed of assignment to Gold Mining Heritage Limited. John's moved it, seconder.
I'll second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pretty impressive, really, isn't it?
Is that for the public part of this meeting? So now, in order to confirm the public excluded minutes from the previous meeting, we need to move back into public excluded. So I'd like to move that we exclude the public from this section of the meeting. Do you have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Can you please